We are not getting that highly anticipated Gauff Sabalenka Aussie Open semifinal as Coco was eliminated in the quarterfinals by Paula Badosa 7-5, 6-4. It was a bit of a surprising result, but not really. I say it's surprising because Coco was riding high on confidence, winning the year-end championships in 2024, and she won the United Cup, and she was on an 11-match win streak, and was many people's favorite, including mine, to take the whole title. But Badosa is a former number 2 herself and has pushed Gauff in just about all their previous meetings. So how exactly did Paula Badosa get the win over Gauff? Well, let's see. Hey, I'm Christian Bassnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you haven't yet already, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more Aussie Open updates as the tournament reaches its closing point and business end. So giving a match analysis now, Coco faced early pressure. She faced 2 break points at 1-all, 15-40 down, but she saved them both and dug herself out of trouble to win that game. And then in the very next game, Coco had a great opportunity in my eyes to break as she had a 30-love lead on Badosa's serve during that 2-1 game. Coco did fumble this opportunity with poor unforced errors, and I feel like if she would have broken here, there's possibilities that she could have ran away with the opening set, but she let Badosa stay close to her with these holds. I feel like there were a couple more games after that where Coco had a small openings, but her return wasn't as strong as it has been the last few weeks or last few months of play for her. Badosa won 61% of her second serve points, which is a bad stat from Gauff's standpoint, considering that once again, she's considered as top 2 or top 3 best returner on tour right now. And some of that I think was due to Coco really not stepping up and taking advantage of Badosa's second serves enough. I felt like she stood a little bit too far back and really just wasn't doing enough with them. She also was missing quite a few second serve returns, so that also aided in Badosa winning more points from that front. But giving Paula her credit, I think Badosa served strong on the second serve, was able to kind of throw in some good kick serves at times, and a lot of times it wasn't an easy cream puff sitter for Coco. So I guess I do have to say, I do understand why Coco took a little bit of a step back, but still I feel like she could have mixed it up a little bit and every once in a while tried to take a good crack at it. Now, towards the end of the opening set, Badosa started going for her shots and hitting bigger from the ground, and it paid her dividends for sure. That's the style of play I feel that gets her more wins over Coco. Looking back at their previous meeting from Beijing a few months back in the semifinals, Paula was the one dictating play at first, but she started to get a little bit nervous towards when it was time to close, and Coco stepped up and was able to take advantage, and she was the aggressor in the end, successfully so. Moving over to the second set, it was just defined by Coco's just missed opportunities. The first game of the set was major, and it really set the tone, and it was huge as it was an 18-minute long game, and Coco had 4 game point opportunities, but it was Badosa who came out on top, and she broke Coco's serve to start the second set. Coco did try to step up and be a little bit more aggressive too at the early part of the second set, but her serve just didn't help her at all with this goal. She missed a lot of her first serves and was on her back foot quite a few times in the opening game, and Badosa took advantage. She also threw in a couple of double faults also in that game, so that hurt her chances even more too. Coco did break back not too long later, and she leveled it at 2 apiece, and this is where I thought that she would definitely pull off another comeback. She went up 40-15 in this 2-all game. This is also when Paula looked a little bit more shaky and more error prone, and she was playing for her first slam semifinal, so I knew that nerves were going to be a big factor for her, but Coco did not take advantage at all. From that 40-15 point in this 2-all game, she kind of had an odd collapse. She double faulted, then netted a sitter forehand, and she then played 2 subpar points, which Badosa finished with winners, and she got broken yet again. Coco did. This right here, I think, is where Coco just lost the match as the wheels fell off for her after she got broken to go down 2-3. Coco played a poor return game in the next one to go down 2-4. And again, Coco's returning normally was her strong suit, but today it was her weakness. Now, when she got broken to go down the double break, it was just ugly tennis from Coco. That's as simple as that. Badosa, she does hit a lot of balls up the middle, regardless of who she plays, to be honest. And I feel like that particularly troubles Coco a lot on her forehand. I feel like it's pretty clear at this point that whenever Coco is on the run, she hits her forehand better. But her footwork on that side in general, on the forehand side, isn't as strong. So when Coco's on the run, she doesn't have to think as much. She can just more or less react, and that's when the better shots come from that wing. Now, whenever sometimes she has sitter shots or whenever the ball's coming at her mid-court or deep up the middle, that's where she has to use more of her footwork. And her footwork, I wouldn't say it's sloppy, it's just not as good, nowhere near as good as it is on her backhand side. And that's where a lot of the times we saw her timing was off on the forehand wing, and it was just, it's been an issue for a minute, but it was particularly a bad issue in this match. When she got down that double break, I thought it was a little bit of a wrap, although I had a little bit of hope for Coco because I know she's such a fighter, and she definitely fought well. I don't think she ever gave up at any point in this match, and I don't think she got too down on herself in the latter stages of the second set, and that's what enabled her to break back, and she forced Paula to serve it out at 5-4. And Badosa, she's definitely starting to get tight, but I think having that double break advantage in her pocket helped a lot because Badosa, she kind of steamed through victory. She served it out with ease at the end. Gotta give credit to Paula, of course, a very great match she played. I think this was a well-deserved win, and she's deserving of a slam semifinal for sure. She proved a lot of people wrong, including myself, by how mentally tough she was able to stay during the moments, because think back, again, she has never made a slam semifinal. In her last slam quarterfinal she played at the US Open, it was against Emma Navarro, and she fumbled a 5-1 lead in the opening set. But I think that she learned from that experience and applied that here and made sure that she didn't fumble anything in this match. Paula also came out on top of a lot of the longer rallies in this match, which I feel like Coco, she's not really accustomed to, and Paula took full advantage of the error-prone Gauff, so props to her for that. To be honest, Badosa played the perfect match. She was consistent from the ground, and she just let Coco beat herself a lot of the times. Also, one thing that Paula did particularly well is she utilized her backhand down the line to change from the backhand to backhand dynamics. She went hard to the weaker Gauff forehand, and she got a really good payoff from that. Now, looking at where Coco went wrong, it was clear it was the forehand. The forehand was a major culprit, simple as that. 28 of her 41 unforced errors came from the forehand side, and it was just off. Coco, I feel she gave an accurate assessment of her forehand and her issues in her post-match press conference. She said her timing from the forehand wing was off, and she felt like she hit the forehand too out in front of her, which I fully agree. Her form just looked very much off, and I feel like she kind of armed it a lot of the time. She didn't get the racket below the ball and get good shape on it. It's like she rushed it and pulled it, and it's characteristic of what we saw during the summer 2024, where of course Coco did not play her best tennis at all. And I would have liked to see Coco mix in some things, like use more shape. And sometimes Coco did try to use more height, but a lot of the times the ball just landed way too short. And Badosa, having the firepower that she does, took full advantage of any short ball, and it was just a wrap for the American. I feel like this match proves that the improvements that Coco needs to make in terms of her forehand and her serve are still very much a work in progress. Shouldn't have been totally jaded by the WTA Finals, United Cup run, of course Beijing as well, and felt like, oh, these issues are behind her. They're clearly not, and I don't think they will be behind her. Really, it might not be totally behind her for the rest of her career. It might just be a thing of where her forehand, whenever it's off, it might not be as off as it was today. I feel like the threshold of poor forehand play might change as she continues to improve her game. I feel like Coco's forehand was also somewhat similar to her early round form from Beijing, and Gauff even said herself in her post-match presser that Badosa didn't do much different from their Beijing match. And I agree, it was a similar match to Beijing, but Coco said that it's just about who could play better in those key moments in this matchup, and that today Paula was the better one in the big moments, and it clearly was the case. We were very close to having a similar scoreline that we had today in Beijing. Honestly, a worse scoreline because Paula had so many opportunities to go up a set and a double break, but Coco fought and scrapped very well, and despite being 2-4 down, she turned the match around on a dime. But I feel like the difference here is that I don't think Coco, she still fought. I disagree with many people saying that she gave up. She was too down on herself. That wasn't the case. I feel like it was more of a case of pressure and her just yeah, just being under pressure. This was a different occasion, a slam quarterfinal. She was the favorite in this matchup. She probably wasn't the favorite in the Beijing match. In that Beijing match, she stayed close with Paula by fighting off all those break points. And that allowed her to fully take advantage of that eventual Paula mental dip. A mental dip, it still did happen today, but Coco going down the double break just put her in too big of a hole to dig herself out of. Again, Badosa is a tricky matchup for Gauff because she can match Coco's consistency from the ground, and she can also take an adequate advantage of any shorter shots like we saw today from Coco. And again, there's the aspect of her being able to go up deep down the middle to Coco's forehand, that causing a lot of problems for the American. And I feel like that's going to be something that Gauff's opponents are going to want to look to exploit. First, going up down the line with the backhand to Gauff's weaker forehand, and then also going deeper up the middle to Coco's forehand. Now, I can't say the loss was too surprising to me because Coco hasn't shown great form this entire tournament. I noticed from the first round on, it's just we haven't seen that same form that we saw in the United Cup. And it's understandable, even though it's not that long of a time from between United Cup finals to now. The conditions are different here in Melbourne, and again, there's the added pressure of it being a major. I feel like for this tournament, Coco was more or less in her win ugly bag. Again, she wasn't playing. There wasn't a single match where she played anywhere near her best, in my opinion, and that wasn't going to be enough for her, I feel, to win the entire tournament. Coco fans, though, I feel like they did a little bit too much and were trying to overanalyze the loss. I saw some people say she's not a good pressure player, but that's just a wild statement for me because did we literally not witness Beijing, WTA Finals, United Cup, where she got so many key wins from being in the pressure moments? Like, I just feel like people have unrealistic expectations from Coco and that she's supposed to win every match. Now, granted, this match was not a good match from Coco at all, but let's not forget she's 20 years old and she just, again, I don't know why people are forgetting that great run of form she just had. Like, it would be one thing if it was she was still losing, but she did so great. Again, 11-match win streak, won multiple big tournaments, and she just had one bad match. So I feel like people need to pump the brakes on that and give her a little bit more grace. Now, I did say at the beginning of the tournament that this was going to be a big test tournament for Coco and her being able to handle the expectations of being more of a favorite and still rise and win the tournament when she's a favorite. She did do that, I guess, at the 2023 US Open. So I'll give her that. But she just was not able to bring that same form from, of course, United Cup to here. And that's not uncommon. Of course, we've seen multiple people not bring that same form. Let's look at last year. Iga wasn't able to bring necessarily that same form from United Cup where she played great tennis to here. So it's not some foreign thing that's just, related to Coco. Also, it's not like she lost to some scrub in the first or second round. Paula Badosa, again, a former world number 2, and it was in the quarterfinals of a slam. She's not a robot. Still, her making the quarterfinals obviously is not what she wanted. She wanted the title, but it's still not a poor result. So I feel like, again, people need to back off a little bit on Coco in that regard. I am disappointed. If there's one thing I'm disappointed in, it's not necessarily her lack of fight. It's just her lack of problem solving skills and being able to overcome things and take advantage of that Badosa dip in that second set. And I feel like some of it could be attributed to the coaching or lack thereof. Caroline Wozniacki made a great point while commentating that a lot of the players took advantage of the coaching pop, which is kind of court level, and players are able to have actual conversations with their coaches. Coco's team stayed in the player box, and they weren't really able to say much to her, and they weren't able to give her a lot of good advice, I think, which could help turn the match around. The frustrating thing about this is that it was such a match that you felt like Coco was going to turn it around, but she never did. And I think a difference maker could have been Matt Daly or somewhere else talking to her and giving her necessary improvements. But I know Coco probably wants to figure things out on her own, but maybe that's something her team can look at and taking advantage of these greater opportunities of coaches offering more input mid-match. Again, the biggest takeaway for me is that Coco clearly has a lot of things to work on, and that it's going to take some time for her to iron out those issues and be a true dominant, consistent force that I believe she can be on the WTA tour. While it was an odd and disappointing loss, again, it wasn't horrible, and she's not even 21 yet, so she'll be back, I feel, to win this in the future, in multiple times at that. Those are all my thoughts for this Badosa Gauff match. Let me know what you thought about it and why you felt personally that Coco lost and Badosa won. Also, do you feel like this is a big cause of concern? If you're a golf fan, let me know if you are taking this a little bit differently than I am. I personally don't think it's a big deal, and Coco seemed in great spirits in her post-match press conference and has a positive outlook on it too, but let me know if you think differently about it. Also, how far do you believe Badosa can go in this tournament? She faces the winner of Aryna Sabalenka and Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, but can she go all the way? Honestly, I don't think so, but I wouldn't mind to see it. Again, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post more updates throughout the Australian Open. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I'll see you all next time here on Christian's Court.